What is up, Frog fans? You are listening live or recorded on our streaming platforms to the Thursday Deep Dish. We are the Lupton Drinking Club. I'm your host, JD Sailors. Down at the bottom there is my co-host, Martin Guerrero. And joining just in time, Ray Cartwright. What's up, boys?
Sup, dude?
I didn't know if you were going to join.
Yeah, it's been a busy day.
Yeah, I feel that. I have nothing for an opening segment. What is on y'all's mind? I'm going to turn it over to y'all.
Byron Nelson, dude.
Okay.
We got Scotty going low today.
Yeah. Fill me. I have tickets for tomorrow. I'm going tomorrow. So fill me in on where we're at.
So as you know, we got a ton of rain on Wednesday.
Yeah. Green slow.
All the rain. So that softened the course right up.
Yeah.
And scoring was plentiful today.
Yeah.
Scotty shoots a 61.
Holy crap, God. Dude. So, okay. So what time is he teeing off tomorrow?
Not a clue.
Okay. Did he have the early round today or a later round?
I'm going to say, that's a good question. I don't know. I just caught the highlights after work.
Fair enough.
Huh? It's supposed to rain tomorrow.
Don't love that. I got the day off. I was going to get out there and enjoy the day.
And dude, Jacob, I see you're rocking the Victory or the Neon Stars.
Yep. Find me at Victory Plaza tonight. Headed down there after the show.
Dude, I'm
bring the series home.
I'll be at Stan's Blue Note for everyone watching right now. If they want to come out, say you watched live on air, and I'll buy you a beer.
There you go. Yeah, same deal. If you're going to Victory Plaza, I'll be down there. Yeah, man. Martin, are you gonna watch any hockey tonight?
I was just gonna sit in the room with all the lights off and go to sleep.
Oh, there's that.
Well, generally, whenever you go to bed, usually you may not be sitting. You may be in a more laying down position.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of crapped on that one. Maybe I'll cut my grass again.
God, dude, low energy Martin tonight. Even more low energy than normal.
Well, I mean, we're talking hockey and golf.
Okay. Two great sports.
This hockey and golf talk brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Go to chinookseedery.com, use promo code LEDC and get your 10% off.
Dude, if you're out at the Byron this weekend, or dude, you see those pros, you're so inspired, you hit your local green, get you some Chinook.
Yeah, we had some orders come in last week, so thank you for all of you who took advantage of your 10% off order. I see Martin down there making a lot of noise with his bag, crunching seeds and spit into a cup. At least tell us what flavor you got.
Hatch chili.
Hatch chili. Dude, my dog got into my Hatch chili pack. I need to re-up.
Was it explosive everywhere? Paint in the wall?
I mean, there was just a mess of sunflower seeds. I don't think she really liked them too much.
Well, better a mess of sunflower seeds than a mess of something else.
Yeah, she didn't eat them. I think
sunflower seeds.
I think she licked a few of those and said, dill pickle and, that's more my flavor, she said. So. All right, so we had Baylor at home, took 2 out of 3. We talked a little bit about it on Monday. I wasn't all that disappointed by it since it's kind of what we talked about last week, what we expected. Ray calls a sweep every weekend, and he's been right twice.
We talked about needing to avoid Baylor having a lead late in the game, and man, they do have a really good closer. He came in and pretty much struck everybody out except for Carson Bowen.
Yeah.
And, they got that win. Friday and Saturday, the team put up, a lot of good at-bats. Did you know that Chase Brunson has 6 walks in the first 2 games?
I only knew that because I charted the games today, and that caught my eye.
Yeah, I think I saw he went like 0 for 2 with 6 walks in the first 2 games.
Yeah, and that was one of the points we actually made last week when we knew we were going to be facing a bunch of lefties is you have to be willing to walk.
Mm-hmm.
because they're not going to go up there and just tee off a left-handed pitching. They're just simply not. But what they can do is be patient and draw walks. So they did a really good job of that, like right out of the gate Friday night. Put up 4 on the board, mostly due to there were a couple of hit batters, I think, in there, but a couple walks. Carson got it started with a base hit. So really good inning, and you feel good about a lead of any kind with Tommy Lepore on the mound, and he did not disappoint.
Back to Tommy's performance on Friday.
We're on it. We're on it right now. I literally just brought it up.
I know. Okay. Well, poor phrasing on my part. Phrasing, professional. Anyways.
Do better.
Martin, how impressed were you that he's still pumping he was pumping 100 in the 9th inning?
Super impressed.
Against Baylor.
Yeah.
Dude, pitch 113 and he's hitting 100.
That
tells me a couple of different things.
He's a great athlete.
Dude, he's a great athlete, one, and he knows how to keep himself balanced during the game and not use himself up too quickly,
Yeah. I mean, I think inning 1 through 8 was pretty low stress. And then, the 9th, he walked in a run or whatever. He had a lot of adrenaline flowing, and that's probably where he got that triple digits from, winning the well.
Yeah, TCU got pretty good pitching all weekend, with the except Baumler struggled in the 1 inning where Baylor kind of took the lead, and it happened to be on a day where TCU's offense goes ice cold. So we did drop, game 3. Cade Udy showing 2% because he faced one hitter, got the final out of the game, added 2%. Caden Parker, really nice day. Lewis was great. Lepore, as we mentioned, Mason Brassfield was really good.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned Baumler, but Sloan again struggles. So I think this is the 3rd deep dish in a row where we're talking about, are we worried about Braden Sloan? So I isolated his performance. You can see, dominant all the way up until, he got cracked a little against Houston. BYU, we all know how that game went. Rebounded against Kansas, but now that's 2 outings in a row against UCF and Baylor where, it's not up to Braden Sloan's standards. So is it a factor of, he's dominant with one pitch and now teams only have to adjust to the one pitch and they're doing a good job of it? Or is this simply, he doesn't have command of the changeup? Martin, what are you seeing out of Sloan, and should we be worried?
Right now, I think he's having trouble throwing strikes. So if he is not throwing his fastballs for a strike, then there's no reason to swing at the changeup because it's usually not a strike. So you pretty much just have to wait for the fastball to be in the zone and you swing at it. So you're basically just waiting for one pitch, and that's it. That's the only threat for a strike even is the fastball. So
you think that factors into why we haven't seen him start is because of lack of repertoire?
Could be. He had 5 walks against BYU. He had 3 walks against Kansas. He had 3 walks against UCF. He had 2 walks against Baylor.
Yeah, we're going to need him this weekend. I mean, we'll talk about Arizona a little bit later, but I think we're going to need him.
Luckily, I don't know. He pitched pretty well against Arizona last year, right?
He did.
He did. Yeah, very well.
Maybe that'll get him back on track.
Yeah, I hope so.
Would you be surprised to know he hasn't had a scoreless outing since March 14th against Arizona State?
I mean,
he's given up at least a run in every game since then.
Yeah.
Or every outing since then.
Let's see. 1 against DBU, 1 against Tech, 1 against Houston, many against BYU. 1 against Kansas?
Yeah, a lot of them are ones, but
yeah.
And a lot of them were spread out over 4 innings, right?
Yeah,
right.
Texas Tech was 1 run in 4 innings, and Kansas was 1 earned run in 4 2/3.
Mm-hmm. Yep. While I'm thinking about this, I have a duplicate of this page and I don't have a player in the title because I wanted to leave it open if there were any players you guys were interested in. But I want to look at Mason Brassfield because the starters were announced. We have Tommy Lepore and Cademan Parker, of course. And then we have a TBA on Sunday. And I'm just going to guess this chart's going to back up my claim that spot should go to Mason Brassfield.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Okay. Yep. This is exactly what I expected to see here. So this is, let's see, 6 out of his last 7 appearances after the Arizona State debacle have been brilliant for Mason Brassfield. If this doesn't earn a guy another start, I don't know what he could do different to earn a start. It's not, I don't think it's the same situation as like Braden Sloan because Braden Sloan hadn't got the opportunity to start at all. Mason Brassfield has. It didn't go well. But now we're talking about 6 out of the last 7 appearances for Brassfield where he's been locked in.
I would hope it's Brassfield. They've got to find a third starter.
Yeah.
In some capacity as we get closer to postseason play.
Yeah, I agree, Ray. That's a huge deal. We're like, 3 weeks left in the regular season. We definitely need to lock that down. Get used to, being 1, 2, 3, the guys getting their rhythm, know where they're going to pitch. I'd like to see Brassfield get that opportunity as well. I was looking at his numbers the other day, and his ERA is like 2 point something, right?
Yeah.
Half of his earned runs came in that Arizona State start.
Yep.
So you'd have like a 1.3 or something ERA outside of that one. What was it? 1 inning?
Yeah, something like that.
I think so. It's like 1 inning and like 6 earned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. Are you talking about sorry, I was messing with the graph. Were you talking about the Arizona State?
Yeah.
Yeah, he went 2/3 of an inning. He didn't make it out of the inning.
Yeah, so he'd have an ERA around 1 and for the rest of the season. And also Cone Feaster as well. I think his ERA right now is like in the 5s. He'd have a 2-something ERA if you took out that Arizona State game.
Right. And you see, I have this chart up here for the whole season. Cohen Feaster is 5th on the list for win probability added per hitter. The reason I brought this up is because you guys were talking about we need to lock in who the third starter is. I agree. It's nice having all this depth, but man, someone needs to just take the next step and become that third starter. Like, we can't just keep running bullpen games out in a weekend series. Well, I guess technically we can since we only have 3 left. We've been doing it all season, but it would be nice going into postseason to have, we know this is the third guy.
Dude, for sure. Yeah. And I like what Martin said, rhythms.
Yeah.
Guys know their roles a little more defined so they can, kind of get on a clock and when they can expect to throw in a game.
Yep. Yeah. And what would help out, any pitcher who's starting is maybe getting a little more out of the offense, because I want to bring up this chart, but I want to make it a little clearer on what I want to do here. So I'm going to filter just on the offense. So if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate it. If you're looking at this chart, you see the bars going down towards the ground. That's bad. High to the sky is good. So look at the last 9 games. 6 of them have been major negatives from the offense. But if I'm looking at this from the season as a whole, it's good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. So I'm hoping as we go into Arizona, this starts another streak of good offensive performances.
Where's the third Baylor game?
Right here. Negative 49% win probability added.
Yeah, 11.7.
Oh, hold on. That's the 26th. So the reason the 26th isn't showing up because it's next to 0.
Oh.
So I filtered out any games where it's like, almost 0.
Boys over at 11.7 always say hot, cold, hot.
Well, yeah. This is kind of one of the reasons I picked TCU to win 2 out of 3 is because, we looked at Baylor's pitching. They do have some depth in there, and TCU's offense has a tendency just take games off. It seems like not like literally they're not trying to get out or anything. It's just for whatever reason, we look good one game and then next game we're clueless. So saw it against UCF where we lost 2 out of 3, and that popped its head up on Sunday against Baylor.
Yeah, and some of that happens also because teams kind of stack up pitching on a certain day that they think they can win a game.
So we have opponents punting the Tommy Lepore games now.
I don't know if they're doing it intentional or not. I mean, Baylor kind of did it intentional. They just really didn't have a chance to win the first 2 games, and their best chance to win was on Sunday. And so they saved their closer for that game. And you saw the same thing against Houston with John. I don't think it's very on purpose. I just think it was kind of bad luck for TCU that the one game that the other team has a chance to win and has a stud reliever like that is the one game usually where TCU struggles on offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a good point. But I mean, I don't know. I would just like to see more consistent output. I mean, for Houston, BYU, and even going into Kansas, the offense was on a nice streak. So they've shown they're capable. I don't think it's all opponent dependent, I can't say for sure, but yeah, really interested to see how this weekend goes. Are you guys curious about any particular player and their trends? Because I have this chart. I was going to leave you guys to suggest any players we could just look at and just.
Nolan Traeger.
Okay.
I think he's hot right now.
Oh, wrong Traeger. Yeah, really good run for Nolan Traeger going back to, I guess you could say the Kansas series, really.
Mm-hmm.
Had a bad game 2 against Kansas, but game 1, game 3, all of UCF, Baylor. He struggled against Baylor here on the 27th.
Is that when he came off the bench?
Yeah. He might have just had one at bat.
Yeah, when Stroh-Snyder was injured.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. But it must have been an important time because he registered -9% in that one at bat. So anyway, yeah, good run for Traeger.
Who would y'all think of on this offense? If they're not going, the offense isn't going.
Carson Bowen.
Yeah, it's either Carson Bowen or Stroh-Snyder.
Well, we've seen times where Stroh-Snyder struggled and we win anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's the same for Carson Bowen. Let's pull his.
Because I kind of feel like it's a little bit like Cole Kramer.
Yeah, that's
to me.
Cole Kramer's a good one, but I'm not sure he really has bad games, honestly. Let's look at his. Every once in a while, but for the most part, man, he's either contributing or really contributing.
Yes. He's pretty solid across the board. I mean, like, his worst game was probably our worst loss. The UTA game.
Yeah. 25%. Yeah, we could have used a little more that night out of a lot of people.
Show me Jack Bell.
Okay. I looked at his earlier too. That's a good one. Yeah, we were kind of complimenting Jack Bell, and then he's kind of gone cold since then. So we'll take the blame for that one, I guess. We have a special guest appearance, the Podfather himself. Yell MK.
We bring the boom. That's what
Do you
we
read us,
do.
MK? Do you read us?
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Good, man. Just looking at some charts. You got a player you're curious about? We're just
I'm brought to you by Long Drink. Just enjoying
Oh,
my
let's go.
just enjoy my peach long drink.
All
Always
right.
delicious. Thank you. And I'll be
Slurpee
out of
boy.
here. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, honestly, the reason I'm joining is because number one is I miss Martin. I never get to see Martin on Monday nights, and I wanted to see your face live in person. Number two, I just want to learn. I'm here to learn about what you guys are doing, and I'm going to stick back and I'll ask questions here and there, but go for it. So I'm going to pause.
Give us a player you're curious about. We're just kind of bouncing around different players.
You've already talked about Sloan. I heard that.
Hitter.
Oh, we're doing offense
It can be a
now?
pitcher. No, it can be a pitcher.
Could be a pitcher.
You already talked about Brassfield, which was really interesting. The fact that if you took out that singular Arizona State game, how would that affect the entire season of stats? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Trying to think, who else do I want to see? How does Brody Green doing lately?
Well, he's very limited at bats, so his will be a little skewed based on he gets an at bat here and a bat there. But why not look at it?
He's very periodic. It doesn't happen. He's not in every lineup.
Yeah, I don't know if we have the sample for Brody Green to make any kind of determinations.
Here's one, Jacob. How about Noah Franco?
That's a good one. Tough times for old Noah. He's going through it a little bit.
I just feel like he has been.
No, I'm glad you brought up Noah Franco because something that's been bugging me a little bit is, kind of intuitively knowing Noah Franco struggling. I would love for him and Brunson to switch places in the lineup and let Brunson kind of hit more with guys on in front of him. When Carson's getting on and Stroh-Snyder and Kramer, then you're getting this kind of production out of Noah right after those guys. It kind of kills momentum a little bit.
Or to your point, to add on to it, right? Brunson's great at walking.
Yeah.
So if he takes a walk, now that's another man on base, and is going to see better pitches.
Yeah.
Because they have to throw him strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see Brunson up in the lineup and Franco move down, but I don't know.
I like it.
We'll see. All right, boys. Any other thoughts on season performance or Baylor before we go to Arizona?
Oh, yes. I have some I was looking at some stats.
Okay.
Because D1 has them split home and away now. So I found some interesting stuff. One of the interesting things that I saw was that Carson Bowen is slugging .514 on the road and only .500 at home. And the reason why that's interesting is because his batting average at home is .350. Meanwhile, his batting average on the road is only .243. But somehow he's slugging higher on the road.
Well, let's see.
Park related?
He had a home run and
brutal
San
wins.
Diego.
Now the road games is a smaller sample size. We're pretty much double home games versus away games right now. But I just thought that was interesting. So what I found was he has so he's basically hitting a line drive a third of the time at home, which is one of the best line drive rates at home in the Big 12. He has a 409 BABIP at home, and his strikeout rate at home is only 15%. Now on the road, his oh man, I forgot to write down his line drive rate. I think it was only 11% line drive rate on the road.
Wow.
And only a 280 BABIP on the road, and he's striking out 6% more on the road. So I thought that was interesting. And then while I was looking at strikeout rates, I saw Franco on the road is striking out 29.3% of the time, very high. Also, Silva is striking out almost 28% of the time on the road, which is weird because Silva does not strike out that much.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Now, about a third of our road games happened in San Diego.
Right.
Franco and Silva really struggled in San Diego. So
who in Silva?
Franco and Silva.
Right. Okay. And I was going to make that point about Carson too, because he had a home run and a triple in that series.
Yeah.
I mean, Franco had two massive home runs.
He also struck out like 8 times.
Right.
Well,
Right.
everyone struck out.
That's true.
All right.
We can talk about Arizona.
That's good stuff, Martin. Appreciate that. So,
Jacob, before you move on, can I ask one question to Martin?
Absolutely.
You threw a lot of stuff at us. What are you taking away from those things?
Yeah, so the Franco and Silva thing, I think the road series at San Diego is very weighted because it's about a third of the road games that they've played so far this season, and they struggled, and that was so long ago. I don't think they're striking out this much currently on the road, but it's just something to watch.
Yep. Agreed. Okay, so Frogs go to Arizona, 3-game set. Really huge weekend for TCU for a number of reasons. Right now, TCU is fighting to lock down a hosting bid for the postseason. And, there's different ways to kind of calculate if TCU is going to host or they're not. And I really, really think that regardless of how the other 2 weekends go, they need to win this series just to bolster their resume. We've talked about this. They lost Arkansas, they lost Southern Miss, they lost Arizona State. And that kind of stands out to people who are just browsing resumes. Like, okay, yeah, they're beating teams they should beat, but when you look at their key series, they've lost them all. Now, Kansas sweep does help, but I think we just need one more bullet on the resume. So, yeah, we went to Arizona and we took 2 of 3, and then we can take care of business against Cincinnati and Utah. And I think we have a really good resume to host. So D1 came out with their field of 64, and they debated a lot on whether we would get the host spot at 16 or UCLA. They ultimately went with UCLA, mostly for the simple reason they think Arizona is going to win this series this weekend. But then when they placed TCU, they have us going to Austin, and Texas is the number 1 overall seed. So essentially what they're saying is TCU is either the 16th or 17th best team, right? So if they're not 16 and they are 17, they're sending them to Austin, which is essentially slotted for the number 34 team. So TCU's punishment for not getting that last hosting spot is dropping from seed 17 to seed 34 and going to play the number 1 overall team in the country. So I challenged Kendall on this a little bit, and he said, here's your reminder that the committee bases 90% of their locations after the top 16 based on geography, right? So essentially saying, well, TC's close to Texas, so who cares what their seed would be. It's all based on geography after the top 16. So, knowing me, I'm like, I'm not just going to take his word for it. I got to go do some research. Are you guys curious to what my research found?
I am very interested. I'm very curious.
Okay. I'm curious to see what the last 3 years.
All right. Well, I went back and I did 4 years.
Okay.
And I included this year. Okay. Now, let me say from the outset, D1's field of 64, mainly I only looked at 1 seeds and 2 seeds, right? I didn't look at 3 and 4 because for all I know, maybe 3 and 4 seeds are based on geography, but that doesn't really concern us because we think TCU is at least going to be a 2 seed, right? So I looked at 1 seeds and 2 seeds for the last 5 years, including 2025, what D1 posted this week. I looked at RPI. I used that as kind of my measuring stick. And I said, okay, so for the number 1 overall seed, the RPI for the 2 seed should be 32, right? Because if you just miss hosting at 16, you're the 17th seed. So you should be paired up with a lower top 16 seed. Does that make sense? And then I compared what the actual RPI is, okay? So TCU in 2025, if they're the number 17 seed, getting the seed 32 spot, that would be the 6th biggest outlier in the last 5 years when it comes to seeding differences. Okay.
That's
Now-
not the biggest. Okay.
It goes, hold on. It goes farther
In the last 5 years?
in the last, including this year. Yeah. It's the biggest difference this year and the 6th biggest in the last 5 years. Now,
So
It
how
goes
many
farther.
was it? How many is it total? So that's 6 out of like 40,
80.
80. That is pretty high.
Yes. Okay. Now it gets worse. 4 of those bigger outliers came in 2022. The committee, I guess, just did not give a shit about RPI that year because it is by far the highest standard deviation from RPI to seeding of any of the 5 years. Even D1's ranking this year is actually pretty good. It's just they have 2 major outliers. Well, and really 3, but we'll just call it 2 for the sake of conversation. And TCU's is the biggest. Now, going back to 2022, 3 of those 4 had nothing to do with geography. Okay, they had Vandy going to Oregon State. Did they use geography to make that decision? I don't think so. They had Arizona going to Miami. They had UCLA going to Auburn. So tell me how geography plays into, oh, we're going to put those teams, we don't care about seeding. We're just going to use geography.
Well, that's the year they sent TCU to College Station.
Yes, but TCU, that's the 28th seed that we got. We were RPI 36.
No.
So it wasn't a massive difference, right? So my theory has always been they use geography when it makes sense.
Right.
And looking at the last 5 years, well, we'll say 4, not including this year, that plays out, except for just a handful of outliers. So Kendall's saying 90% of the committee's decision is based on geography. There's just zero evidence to support that.
Kendall, you're listening right now. Chime in. Hey,
Yeah.
Jacob, send him the link. He's ready to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get them on and grill them.
That's such a weird thing to say, though. Like, half of the committee is new this year, so he has no idea what they base their decisions off of.
Right. But it's not geography. In the past, it hasn't been geography.
Honestly, 90%, if you want to keep that percentage, that's usually what they base. They use RPI to base their decisions
Yes.
off of.
Okay. And yes, there is a strong correlation to seeding and RPI. So sending TCU to Austin as the number 17 overall team, that's just BS, man. That just simply is not a real thing. And it's not only is it unfair to us, which is most important, it's also unfair to Texas. Like, imagine being if TCU was the number 1 overall team and Texas just missed hosting. They send Texas to Fort Worth as the 2 seed. We'd feel completely screwed by that.
Yeah. I think it's just Kendall's wet dream. He wants TCU to play Sloss again.
And what's funny is, so one of the other big outliers on here is Southern Miss going to Auburn. So Auburn is the number 14 seed in their projection, and they're sending Southern Miss there. If they would just flip TCU and Southern Miss, this would be an almost perfect projection. Like, there's not
I think it's done some for the clicks.
No,
Yes.
I don't think so. You
Like
think so,
right
Mark?
now.
Yes.
Okay. So TCU has such a big attention getting name that we're going to subscribe to D1 because, wow, they put TCU in Austin.
Well, it's a
So,
free article.
yeah, I mean, and they make what, like 6 field of 64 projections. I mean, they really cost them nothing. All they'll say is, well, look at the one we put out, right before Selection Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just TCU, but you have Texas fans talking about the same thing you just said. Like, why are we getting this team as the number 2 seed in our bracket when we're the number 1 overall seed?
Exactly. They could be getting Southern Miss, who's the number 31 seed.
So it's the same thing as football, where they do multiple rankings for 6 weeks when they really don't have to do any of that. They could just wait like basketball and go to the end and say, here's your ranking, here's the top 64, right? They do this for, well, we already said it, clicks and for rating, because they know that every time they put out a top 64, people are going to look and go, hey, is my team there? Where are they at?
Yeah, but what kind of effect are they getting by putting TCU in an outlandish spot versus seeding them
Because they
fairly?
focus on the top 16, and after that, they just throw people in,
But the thing is, MK, except all the other teams, except for 2 or 3, are very closely related to RPI.
What I'm saying is, no, I agree with you. What I'm saying is they focus on the top 16, and the rest of them, they go, okay,
16. Yeah.
who's nearby? And then we'll put them in that region, because that
Or
makes
what
sense.
would be a spicy regional?
Yeah.
All right. And to that point, so let's say the committee actually did this and everybody says, oh, they're just trying to get ratings. Find me one person out there who wasn't going to watch that regional anyway saying, holy shit, TCU's going to Austin. I wasn't going to watch. Now I will. There's not one person out there. It's
ratings for the end of April.
What ratings? Like, here's the thing. Texas is going to host, right? You could put Western Kentucky as the 2 seed, and there'll be 10,000 people in that stadium, and half the state of Texas tuned in to watch.
Heck, put Yale.
You could put anybody there. That's my point. You don't need to. Oh, we got to spice this up with TCU. That makes no sense to me. Anyway, it's
Schloss.
The only reason I took it this far to research is because Kendall clapped back so strong about, here's your reminder that 90% of it's based on geography.
I'd like to think that
assertion rejected. There's no evidence to support that.
That Kendall tweeted it in the attitudinal voice he read it in. That's what he was.
Anyway, all right, we got to move on to Arizona. Sorry, that took too long. This Arizona preview brought to you by Anduno Travel. Go to anduno.us. Go buy you a travel bag. You know you need one. You need a gym bag. You need a travel bag. Regionals are coming up. Make sure you get your order in. Use promo code LDC2025. Get 10% off your order. 10% of that also will go to, I'm blanking on the charity name, guys.
Saving Hope.
Saving Hope Pet Rescue. Thank you, Ray. So go help out the puppy dog. Go help out TCU grads who are starting a business from scratch, Anduno.us. All right, Martin, lead us off with Arizona.
Arizona, 25th in RPI, 24th in D1's baseball ranking. So that'll be 3 quad 1 games for sure since it's on the road. So a couple of their very good players, center fielder Aaron Walton and shortstop Mason White. So for the season, Aaron Walton is hitting .352 with a .471 on base and a .618 slugging. Mason White is hitting .304 with a .373 on base and a .586 slugging. So I went back and I looked at their home road splits, and I was disappointed when I saw Aaron Walton and Mason White are 2 of the best hitters at home in the Big 12.
We could have guessed that, though.
Yeah, some of their guys don't hit better at home, but yeah. So the sharp increase is actually from Mason White, but so Aaron hits 414 with a .535 on base and a .690 slugging. Mason White sees almost 100-point improvement at home across the board. He's hitting .394 with a .473 on base and a .649 slugging. That'll be pretty tough. Another note I have here is Brandon Summerhill was like their top draft prospect guy.
Yep.
He missed like the last month, basically all of April with a wrist injury.
How did I miss that note?
I don't know, but he's
Huh.
back.
He's back. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that explains why he is where he is on my chart.
Yep. So he played one midweek game and then a Saturday game, I think, against Texas Tech. He did not play the rest of the series. I don't know if it's because they played a double header. Maybe that kind of had an effect on it, but he's hitting 414 with a 508 on base and a 697 slugging. So he's pretty good. I don't know if they're going to put him back in the outfield. He was their center fielder before he got injured. Then they moved Walton in there. I don't know if they'll have him at DH or maybe in a corner. But I know we talked about the comparisons offensively between TCU
Yeah, I was waiting for a moment to bring this up, but it is eerie how similar these two offenses are. And I'll share my screen now. Try to differentiate which one's better out of this because it is almost identical. So we have Arizona here on the left, and each dot represents a player, and at the top is the top hitter, and then it goes down from there. So looking at Arizona, you have Aaron Walton leading the way with a 2.54 WAR. That's almost identical to Sawyer Stroh-Snyder at 2.49. And you just go down the list, and there's guys just head-to-head, very even. There's almost no distinction on which is the better offense.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Arizona, playing where they play could be an advantage for their hitters, but we are playing them on the road, so we can't even if they were coming, like we talked about with Kansas had to come to Lupton, and let's see how they hit there.
Yeah.
And you saw a
Would
massive
you like
difference.
the park numbers?
I have it, but
Actually,
go ahead.
I have it pulled up.
Yep.
Yeah. So you think of Arizona as like this huge hitters park, right?
Right.
So they have an average of 107, which TCU, I think, is right at a 1 for
Okay, so
everything.
So essentially it's 7% easier to hit in Arizona than it is at Lupton.
But their 6-year average, they're at a 111.
Okay.
But over the last 3 years, it's only a 102.
So that's the number I saw, Ray. I saw the 102, and I was very surprised by that.
Does that include this year?
I don't think so.
I
don't know how often the Action Network updates these.
Yeah. That 102 number really jumped out at me because that's the number I saw. But very good hitting team, but so are we.
That's really interesting about the park numbers because I think it's probably played more of a pitcher's park this year because their pitchers are really good. They've pretty much all three of their starters have started.
Let's go there next.
Yep.
Let's go to pitching. Martin, do you have highlights or do you want me to go into this?
Yeah, so I got their weekend rotation. It's almost pretty much the same as it's been all year. So Friday they have Owen Kramkowski, right-handed pitcher. This guy has the lowest ERA in the Big 12 at home with a 1.63 ERA in 27 2/3 innings. He's got a 27-4 strikeout to walk ratio. It's pretty good. Thought it was interesting how much better he pitches at home than he does on the road. Because for the year, he has a ERA like in the 4s. So that basically cut in half and then cut in half again, and there's his home ERA. But Saturday they got Colin McKinney. He's got a 3.02 ERA in 44 innings, 53 strikeouts, 28 walks.
Does he have is he another guy with a crazy home road split?
I don't know, but the thing about him is that he only averages 4 innings a start for the year. And so especially early on in the year, he was only going like 3 innings and he had an ERA like in the 1s.
Sounds very Cademan Parker-ish.
Yeah. Lately they've been letting him go longer, but his ERA has gone up. So
Okay.
it was in the
Okay.
ones, now it's low 3.
Interesting note.
So he's a transfer from Baylor. So he's pitching on Saturday. It's almost 365 days to the T from when TCU lit him up against
Yeah,
Baylor.
I remember in our preseason previews, I remember talking about this.
Yeah.
I think I had Arizona, and I said, okay, Colin McKinney's in their rotation, and TCU destroyed him last year.
Yeah. He's pitched a lot better. Basically cut his ERA in half. So last year when he was pitching for Baylor, he was coming off a injury. I think it was Tommy John, but
Okay.
I mean, now he's healthy. He's so I got a point about this, but I'll just talk about Sunday. Their Sunday pitcher is Smith Bailey. He's a freshman. He's got the 10th lowest home ERA in the Big 12. He's got a 3.6 ERA in 25 innings, 27 strikeouts, and 12 walks at home. Like I said, he's a freshman. So the point I was going to make was I think all three of these guys, so the two Friday, Saturday guys are both sophomores and either like missed a year because of injury or like they redshirted or something.
Yeah.
And then their Sunday guy's a freshman. We're in May. This is probably the most innings they've thrown in their entire lives. I think they are hitting the wall, and that's probably why they lost the series against Texas Tech.
That's a good point, because we talked about Arizona a few weeks ago, and we were pretty surprised by how well their pitching is done. And, you know, I haven't paid a ton of attention to Arizona the last few weeks, but it feels like there's a slide with them. I mean, they lost the series to Tech last week.
And that's very bad.
That pretty much eliminates them from hosting, unless they can, I don't know, sweep us this weekend or something. But
they lost a series to Baylor at home.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a slide. I think part of it is the fatigue. Part of it might also be they didn't have Brennan Summerhill during that time.
That's a good point too. So I'm looking at this from a matchup perspective. Obviously, All-American Tommy Lepore is just going to shadow over anybody that any team has at this point. So you feel good about Friday. Now we get into Saturday and Sunday, man, and it gets pretty murky because they do have a handful of guys who can be effective. I feel like it's third week in a row we've said that, you know, between UCF, Baylor, and now Arizona, where they don't really have a lot of guys that wow you. But, I mean, look at all these dots over here on the left that are higher than any of our guys.
Yeah.
So they can piece guys together, and I think for us to win this series, we can't have a couple games where the offense just doesn't show up. Like, I feel like we know what we're going to get out of our pitching. It's going to be pretty good. I feel good about Cademan coming off his start last week against Baylor. So the pitching is going to keep us in the game. It's just going to be a matter of, you know, does the offense show up? And that's going to swing the series for me. Yes. I don't see a sweep either way. I you know, especially since you can almost bookmark Friday nights as a win. If we lose Friday night, okay, that's shocking, one, and it's also big trouble.
I agree. You can kind of say similar things about both the pitching and the offense, right? I mean, it's the biggest series of the season for TCU, and it's probably going to be one of the toughest because it's on the road. The offense, they're not on fire, but I feel like they had really good at-bats against Baylor, and they could break out. I think they could break out. And then you can say the same thing about the pitching. You know, Tommy Lepore has been the greatest pitcher in the Big 12 this year. You know, Cademan can have a good performance, and I think Brassfield's going to start on Sunday. Brassfield can have, you know, put up a good performance, and you're really going to need it against a team like Arizona, who is, like you said, both teams pretty much go toe-to-toe against each other.
I'll tell you another guy who keep an eye on this weekend is Luis Rodriguez, because he, to an effect, kind of got demoted out of a crucial situation relief role, but in the role he's been pretty dominant lately. So, you know, they worked him last weekend. He was great. He pitched 2 innings on Tuesday, was it? And he had like, 4 strikeouts? I don't know. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but he's been extremely effective lately, and he might get an increased role this weekend.
Yeah, that slider's sharp right now.
Yeah, it is. I think they're going to use it. But yeah, man, I feel really good about this series. If we get a strong start out of Cademan, because I feel like I know what I'm going to get out of Tommy.
Mhm.
And then, you know what, if we go into Sunday up 2-0 in the series, do I want to sweep? Yes. But the goal this weekend is to win 2 out of 3. They by no means need to sweep this series.
If we go into Sunday up 2-0 or even 1-1, I feel really good about either winning the series or sweeping the series with Mason Brassfield, starting the game.
Yep. And you know what? If it goes into Sunday tied at 1, I feel good about snagging that third victory or second victory, third game. So,
and
yeah,
then
it'll be fun.
in case anybody hasn't heard, Stroh-Snyder is supposed to be ready for this weekend.
Well, that feels like a quick recovery from pretty serious oral surgery.
Oh, it's just a couple of teeth and about 20 stitches. No big deal.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else before we wrap up?
They also have a really good closer. I forgot to look up his name, but he's really good too.
Every team this year we face has a really good closer.
We also have a really good closer.
Everybody's got a closer. I like Craig's question. Makes me think, what do y'all think of the base running the last couple of weeks?
1 second.
I don't think it's cost us a game.
No, it hasn't.
It's more reserved.
Hold on. In fact, I didn't even really feel the need to bring it up tonight, but since it was asked, we can. Just give me a second.
Bill, now's your time. Listen up and turn up the volume.
Green lights all weekend.
So they kind of tore up Baylor on the base pass. They had those lefties with those high leg kicks that couldn't hold any runners on.
Dude, slow deliveries.
We're still seeing some instances where it's kind of hurting us. The UTA, that was mainly we had a guy caught stealing, I believe, but also Traeger trying to stretch the single into a double hurt us there. But at that point, I was kind of glad he did because I just wanted that game to get over with. That game was boring as hell. So I'm like, let's speed this up so I can go watch hockey. Let's get this win and get done. I love front loading the Tuesday night games because at this point in the season, I'm kind of over Tuesday nights.
Tuesday nights are over.
Yeah, that's great. Let's
Whoa,
see.
Jacob, what's that tab?
Oh, I didn't realize I was still sharing, but
Oh no.
Boyd's World.
That's gonna live. Okay, so you're not gonna be a congressman.
Big racks.
All right.
Big stacks.
There's a site called Boyd's World. They do a pretty cool thing where they track what do you need to do to get to a certain point in RPI. So right now, TCU with 9 games remaining, they've secured top 45. They either
Even if
need
they lost every game.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The farthest we could slide is within the top 45.
Congrats.
Yeah. So we don't really want that because that probably kind of puts us out of the tournament. We finished 0-9.
Of course.
I think to be safe we need either 2 road wins or 1 home win. And this is the number I'm looking at to host. It's, let's see, 3 road wins. Actually, we'll put it this way: 4 road wins and 2 home wins.
That's 2 against Arizona, or unless you sweep Utah.
Yeah, what if you sweep Utah and we get 1 in Zona?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think 2 of these.
You don't want to get swept at Arizona, though.
I think 2 of these 4 road wins need to come in Arizona because we talked about earlier, just
For sure.
for resume boasting.
To get into the tournament. But we're still talking about hosting. So
Oh no, I'm talking about hosting.
okay.
Yeah, I think
if you get swept at Arizona, I think hosting's out.
Well, yeah, of course.
Is this just regular season? Does it factor anything in, like conference tournament wise?
No.
Well, a conference tournament's different too because it's single elimination. So you want.
And honestly, man, I think the conference tournament matters very little.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Well, it might actually help because you have 1 loss instead of 2, right?
That's true. And I mean, it can be good for like a tiebreaker situation. But
yeah, like what if the last hosting spot for the Big 12, like they're probably only going to get 2, you think?
Mm-hmm.
I
was
think,
down to between TCU and Kansas, right? And they meet
I guess I could see a situation where West Virginia wins out until the Kansas series. Kansas also wins out, but then Kansas beats West Virginia. And then TCU wins 7 out of their last 9. You could see a situation where we get 3, but they'd be, it'd be like 13, 15, and 16 or something like that.
Yeah, I think 3's hard.
3's hard, but I don't think it's impossible. It also matters what the other teams do. Teams like Auburn,
maybe kick UCLA out of there,
or even UC Irvine. I was looking at UC Irvine, and to maintain top 16, they have to go like 9-2 in their last 11 games or something like that.
What about Coastal? They're pretty safely in.
Yeah, I don't know.
As a host,
I can check, but I also got to leave
because I think they're like 12th in RPI right now.
All right, we can end the pod just real quick. It feels good to talk about hosting at this late in the season with 3 series left, and not talking about getting into the tournament, which is what we were doing last year. So,
yeah, Coastal to stay top
side.
16 RPI for Coastal, they need to go 9-1. So,
oh, geez.
But I mean, that's because they're easy games, so they very well could go 9-1. Anyway, all right. Yeah, really didn't mean to share that boring screen. I was just going to talk to it, but whatever.
Thanks for letting me chime in, guys, tonight.
All right, boys, it is. I got to get downtown.
Yeah,
get a couple pre-game beers in.
Cool.
Go Stars.
Dallas Stars.
Go.
Dallas Stars.
One last thing. Are we toadcasting tomorrow?
Damn right.
What time's the game start?
8:00 probably. I'm guessing.
Because
top of my head, it'd be.
I'm going to the Byron Nelson tomorrow, but it should be good.
Let's try. Let's shoot.
Are they Arizona? Because they're a weird state. Are they Pacific time or Mountain time right now, Martin?
I don't know. They are Mountain, but they don't have daylight savings. Mountain Standard.
I'm seeing 8 p.m.
8 p.m. per ESPN. Yeah, which is usually my time, Central Time.
Yep.
My time. This is
8
my
p.m.
time.
on Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.
Right, yeah, speaking of Go Frogs, let's sign out. Go Frogs. We're done.
Go Frogs.
Oh, God.